Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. We're going to continue with the NTRL content, this time for the last time with the Superkarts round 1 footage from Alsace. Obviously this is a little bit differently ran to some of the other leagues, mainly because obviously it's just purely limited to karts. As usual though, there is going to be 6 rounds, however there's 3 races per meet. We do have a qualifying beforehand, that'll set the grid for race 1, then the results from race 1 will set the grid for race 2, and then for race 3 it will be reverse grid from race 2. Individual points only on offer for this one. So with this being the kind of final league of the 4, it's kind of usually the kind of most quietest of the bunch. Obviously a lot of the leagues have changed, so NTRL has kind of gone from a, you know, sort of group 2 group 3 mix to a purely group 3 group 4 for the foreseeable future. Then we've had the NTRL Ferrari Challenge Cup kind of turn into the GT Open. Then we've also had the Classic Mini Coopers that eventually, you know, originally started life as a kind of full classic car championship, but it didn't quite work properly. And then we have this one, the Superkarts, which originally started off as a bit of a Toyota Alphard league, and it's kind of, you know, transformed from there. So we'll get into round 1 of the season at Alsace. So race 1 then, and we're going to have Turbo Boy on pole, obviously, you know, being very dominant so far in pretty much every league he's been in. We've got myself in P2, and it's looking like a bit of a 2-horse race in terms of, you know, overall pace from qualifying, but anything can change as we kind of go into the races. Obviously a lot of kind of chopping and changing. Slipstream very important in the karts. It's really what's going to give you the positions gained or positions lost, especially if you've got someone really hanging in there for a good few laps. So we're at the reverse test course, should I say, of Alsace, the one with the absolutely gigantic hill. This time we're going to be going up it though, not down it, and it did provide some absolutely challenging conditions in the karts. The karts essentially just leaping themselves up that hill at the end and really causing a lot of traction issues. So as we go through the grid, as we can see, we're going to have a big off straight away on lap 1 from Timo, so that's going to drop him, you know, at least a bit back to begin with. I'm pretty sure you'll begin to make some of them places up as we go through the race, but probably not the way you wanted to start it. And we also have Jace in last place as well, another kind of racer that you'd probably not really expect to be there. So let's check in and see what happened to him. As you can see, just going up the hill, and well, he's going to get into a bit of contact with Timo, get absolutely launched and then thrown into the barriers. So yeah, it's both Timo and Jace having a bit of a rough start to racing life in the Superkarts. So on to lap 6 now, a little bit further in. Obviously these races are 15 minutes in length each, so around about a third of the way through, and it's going to be myself and Turbo battling away for P1. It's going to be like this for the majority of these races. We just seem to have a lot more pace than pretty much anyone else around here. There's going to be a few sketchy moments though, so we're going to try and move on the outside of the final corner. I'm going to try and keep it wide and try and get a switch back, but it's looking like Turbo's got that one nice and covered off. And we're just going to dip straight back into the slipstream and hope to follow him for as long as possible to begin to close that gap back up and try again in a few laps. Now again on lap 6 we've got Dan. He's going to have a bit of a moment. He's going to basically end up in the barrier as the kart sort of, you know, gives him a little bit of a kick out, and that's going to drop him a few positions as Jody goes on through. Dan has yet another spin, and he's also lost a position there to Jace, as we also have someone kind of around on their own at the back. I believe that may have been DWG at this point. Only a little bit later, a few laps later, and Dan, well, he's going to have yet another moment, and this time it's going to cost him, as he's going to end up in last place as DWG goes through and takes P9 away from him. So not a great start to Superkart racing for Dan. A couple of moments with him inside a couple of laps, really probably not how he wanted to start this. A little bit later on though, it's only going to get worse for him as both myself and Turbo begin to deal with the first bit of traffic for the league on lap 11. We're coming into the 2/3 of the way through the race, and as you can see, it's going to be still a little bit difficult to get him gapped, just mainly due to the fact that all the karts are, you know, exactly the same. There's no tuning or anything like that. They're all kind of BOP'd and just kind of set to their default settings. So as you can see, we've managed to get through the traffic at that point. If we go a little bit back through the pack, we've got Timo on his little comeback race. This time he's up against the newcomer to the league, TCR Nissan, again taking part in the majority of the races. The guy's really kind of settling into league racing life, and he's basically becoming mainstay of the league so far, joining late on in season 3 and pretty much being everywhere full time for season 4. And then we're going to move on a little bit later to lap 12. As you can see, the timer is definitely counting down at this point, and it's still going to be myself and Turbo battling away for the lead as we really just try and close as many gaps as we can. We're going to eventually get ourselves ahead just slightly, but are we going to be able to manage to keep that position as we decide to take the inside line and try and hang Turbo Boy out as wide as possible? He's going to tuck back in though, even though we've got the position, and he's going to run it really high up in that slipstream and attempt to make a move on the right-hander as we go up the hill. Is he going to be able to get this one done? Not quite. We've got that one just nicely defended, but then obviously we've got the bit of a difficult left-hander there as there's basically no grip on the karts out of there, and we're going to begin to jostle once again for position as he follows our slipstream for the entire lap. Now if we look at the overall fastest lap, as you can see, that is currently owned by me at a 50.475, so rather a decent lap, something I didn't really expect to do in the karts, but I did kind of start to get hold and really get used to the track in these later stages of the race. So as you can see, we're going to be behind Turbo Boy at this point on lap 16 with only a few minutes to go. We're going to go into the onboard camera and you're going to see just how tight this racing really is. So we've gone for the high line now and we're going to dip straight back into the slipstream, and you're going to see just how quickly this closes you up. Obviously there's no real advantage to be gained as both cars will be karts should I say, will be topping out at the same speed in terms of the straight line. We're not going to get the move done there. We're going to just have to back out of that and try and look if we can make a move at a different point. Again, this left-hander here, it can either absolutely kill your time and destroy it, or you can make up a ton of time if you get a better drive out of it than the kart ahead of you. Again, straight back in the slipstream, going to try a wide line here and see if we can cut back inside to try and get that move done. Again, trying to do the little switch back, get straight back in the slipstream and try and get that toe across the start finish line. Obviously it's not a real full straight, it's a little bit curved, and then you're going to go straight back into that left hander, so it's not the easiest one to get a move done, but we do slightly have ourselves ahead. But once again we've took the high line, expecting that Turbo will kind of, you know, cut across us, and we're then once again going to ride in that slipstream to try and get the move done. So we're going to go into the right-hander again, once again up that hill, and we're going to try and back out of this one just a little bit, just to ensure there's no contact. But we are going to look to get the better run out of the left-hander here once again. Not quite getting the move done on the outside, but we are much closer this time as we go side by side once again into the final corner, down the bump, which we'll see later on is going to eventually, you know, catch me out, and we're going to try and look to get the move done once again on the outside, not being able to, but we're able to dip back into that slipstream. Now we're going to have a look at Jody and Jace battling it out. Obviously Jace not having the best start to life, but he is going to try and get that move done as he sort of bumps into the side of Jody, and away she goes into the barrier as Jace takes away P7 from her, but a much better round than usual for her. Again, back to the lead battle, onto the final lap now, and it's again going to be myself and Turbo Boy battling out for the lead, massively clear of the rest of the pack. As you can see, just behind us is just a little bit of traffic, so there's not really anyone else involved in this P1 battle. We're going to go on board to myself to see if we can get this move done at the top of the hill, and this time we are going to manage to get the switch back as Turbo runs it a little bit wide there. We've got plenty of grip coming out into the final corner, and Turbo is going to have a bit of an off into the barrier, so his race really not ending how he wanted it to, which is a massive shame as DWG unlaps himself there in P9. So P1's going to go to yours truly, as well as the fastest lap. Turbo Boy, he's going to take P2 after that little off on the final corner. He's probably not going to be too happy with that, but a great battle with him throughout the race. Professor Smiles takes P3, great result for him with P4, and a great recovery from Timo there. P5 is going to go to new boy TCR Nissan, again a great result for him. Tommy Hawk's going to have a bit of a quiet race, not really seen too much from him, but he takes P6 with Jace P7, and then finally P8 is going to go to Jody, P9 is going to go to DWG, and then P10 is obviously going to go to Jiwoon Dan, who obviously takes that 10th position after his bunch of offs early on. So fastest lap by myself, 50.475 for that one, meaning I do have the bonus point there for fastest lap. lap. So let's go ahead and get on to race 2, and it's going to be a bit of a night race this time in the karts. Obviously you're going to see the little spotlight lit up, and it's going to be myself on pole, as obviously the previous results from race 1 stand for the positions for race 2. So myself on pole, Turbo Boy in P2, and everybody looking very, very close and racy as we go into the kind of sweeping left-hander. Plenty of slipstreaming going on. I think most people have figured out at that point, at this point in the race, should I say, that it is the best thing to do in terms of, you know, getting those lap times down and getting those moves done. Once again, we're going to have Jace trying to make the moves through the field as he battles away with the likes of Timo and Professor Smiles. Again, both of those getting a bit of a better run out, so he's not going to be able to make those moves just yet. Tommy Hawk again kind of maintaining his position with Dan and Jody battling it out. Over P8 is Dan going to be able to get the move done on the inside. It's looking like he may be able to, as we've got one of the karts in the barrier there, but Jody does have that one covered off, so P7 for her now. Obviously it was Professor Smiles that's had a bit of an off, so that's going to be quite disappointing for him, as that drops him all the way to last position. So let's have a quick look what happened to him. I think he just has a bit of a slide going into the final corner and kind of gets himself caught on the barrier. So yeah, very frustrating for him after such a good result and a podium position in race 1. Moving on to lap 2 once again, and we've got Dan and Jody battling it out. As you can see, slipstream being very important, but we're almost 3 wide at this point. We've got the right-hander coming up. Is Jody going to be able to get any positions made up and gained into the right-hander? She does kind of drop back to P9 for a slight moment, but she's going to take that back from Dan on the inside line as they sort of race up the hill and into the left-hander. A little bit later on onto lap 4, and it's pretty much full darkness at this point. It's going to be myself and Turbo up front, once again battling away for P1 as Turbo goes massively wide there. We are going to get the move done on the inside and take away the lead, and you're just going to see the little spotlights kind of zipping and zapping about, as obviously we all follow each other. Not really any real track lighting here at Alsace, so yeah, it's going to be, you know, pretty much pitch black in these little karts as we go through these areas, kind of lit up by a little moth in the lamplight. So yeah, really not too much to see in terms of, you know, where you're going and such. And then, well, we're going to kind of bin it from P1, which probably made Turbo a lot happier than, you know, it did me, as we lose a ton of positions there, dropping down to P5 at this point in the race. So very, very disappointing, and we've got a lot of work to do if we want to get back on the pack, especially considering how strong slipstream is. Up front though, in third place, and the battle for P3 overall, should I say, it's between Jace and Nissam. TCR Nissam having a fantastic karting race so far. Great result from round 1, and he's going to try and have another great result here, as Jace is really trying everything to get around him, and he's just not quite being able to get it done. So he's realistically going to be looking for the slipstream. He dips back in, but he does pull out of it, and it's looking like he's had a bit of an off there, as we see his name tag sort of fly into the barriers and the little brake lights lighting up. So yeah, not too good for Jace to kind of rinse and repeat from race 1 there. So he's probably not going to be too happy with that one. He's got plenty of work to do. So let's have a look at the onboard. As you can see, he just taps the rear end of Nissan there. Not really anything to it. A bit of a, yeah, kind of, you know, driver error at that point, I'd say. But it kind of is what it is. Plenty of work for him to do if he wants to make his way back up through this field, as the likes of Jody, DWG and such go through. And he drops all the way to P9 at that point. Nizam, though, he's going to have a bit of a moment, and that's probably going to be really frustrating for him, as it does allow myself to basically get myself through and up into P3, as you can see there, and back into podium positions, which is a bit of a relief considering how badly I kind of messed up on those early laps. Tommy Hawk, then, he's going to have a bit of a moment, and that's going to allow the likes of Jody, Jace and DWG to try and make their way through, and that's going to be very disappointing for him there, especially considering although he's kind of had a few quiet races, he was certainly well within the points at that point, as Jody and Jace battle it out now into the left-hander. So let's go on board with Jace. Is he going to be able to get the move done on Jody? He's looking for the outside line. Jody kind of covers that one off. He's then going to try and dip inside, see if he can get the momentum going up the hill to get that move done. He does take the inside line, as Jody runs a little bit wide there, and he does manage to eventually take that P6. However, it's not going to be for too long, as Jody's going to fight back, get it down the inside and take P6 straight back from Jace. So Plenty of battling going on between these two at the kind of mid-pack of this race, and a much better race than usual from Jody. So again, we're going to continue on with this little battle and see if Jace can get that one done around the outside. Not quite, so he's going to dip back into the slipstream and follow as closely as possible. Like I said, slipstream being very, very powerful here, especially considering how much of the time you're actually on full throttle in these karts. The best thing you can be doing is running in those slipstreams, and he's going to try it around the outside. Jody's going to back out of that one, and Jace does eventually take P6. There's a bit of a slide there from Jody at the top of the hill. So a little bit later on, and we're going to go on to lap 13 with only a few minutes remaining. It's going to be Nizam and Professor Smiles battling it out. Professor having a great kind of comeback race, just a bit like Timo in race 1. He's up to P4 now as he gets past Nizam. After Nizam's little off early, he's probably quite frustrated to drop all the way from P3 down to P4, P5 at that point, should I say. Turbo Boy then takes the win. A very quiet race for him after I kind of dropped away. Timo takes P2. Great result for him in the karts. P3 is going to go to yours truly after that frustrating kind of beginning accident. I'm really not too happy with that one, as well as fastest lap at a 50.788. Professor Smiles, great recovery in P4, so massive well done to him. P5 to the new boy Nizam, great result for him. Again, more consistent points on the board. P6 is eventually going to go to Jace after his kind of moment earlier on with Nizam. He's probably going to be quite happy with that one, to say you've managed to recover quite well. P7 for Jody, much better result than usual, so well done to her. P8 is going to go to Tommy Hawk, recovering after his spin. P9 to Dan, and finally DWG is going to take P10 and the final spot of the race. So like I did mention, fastest lap went to myself as a 50.788, not as fast as the first race, but not too bad for a nighttime conditions race. So yeah, nice one. Let's go straight into the reverse grid for race 3 and the final race of the meeting. So DWG is going to take us away on pole with Dan in second and Tony in third. So let's see how the pack gets on when it's completely switched around. This is a chance for those that have been kind of at the back to really get some points on the board. 15-minute race once again, back to daytime conditions, so ideal for a much faster pace overall. And Dan's already going to try it down the inside, but Jody absolutely comes out of nowhere and looks like she's going to take the lead in the karts, and does. So great move from her, absolutely out of nowhere there. We didn't even kind of see her in the background, she just sort of appeared. So the bright pink kart does take the lead, which is quite a bit of a shock. DWG drops to P2. P3, I believe we still have Dan, but he's under pressure from the likes of myself, Jace and Co. And then as you can see, all the karts still keeping it nice and close as Jody runs wide there, so quite disappointed for her. She's probably going to be very frustrated at that one, to say she was leading the Superkarts race, and that's it. That's going to drop her down to last place, only for a slight moment, as both her and Tommy Hawk overtake Dan there. Again, he's just not having a great weekend, to be quite honest. Turbo Boy, he's going to be in the lead in the early stages, as most of the karts stay fairly close together going into lap 2, apart from obviously Turbo absolutely running away with it. And we're going to basically just try and get in the slipstream, as well as Professor Smiles. He's still in there, again getting some very consistent results in these karts. So again, we're just relying on the slipstream to allow us to kind of close up onto the back of Turbo Boy as we kind of zigzag around the track, trying to break as much toe as possible. It's literally the only thing you can realistically do to kind of break the toe and defend as much as possible, is just kind of be as weird and wonderful as you truly can with your own racing line. So eventually the slipstream is going to go, and that is going to allow, I believe, the KFC liveried Professor Smiles kart to essentially close up on ourselves. As you can see, he's right in there at this point, but he's not quite getting that move done, or is he? Is he going to try it? Not quite. He's going to get himself down the inside though, but I don't think he's quite got the run out of that final corner, out of the top of the hill there, as we get the run down to the final corner. We're just going to close up on the inside, just to, not allow him to switch back too much, and we're going to essentially force him into a wide line, and that's going to cover that one off, at least for now, as we tuck back into the slipstream of Turbo Boy up in first place. JC's going to have another bit of a moment, this time once again with Timo, I believe, as he has more contact with the German and drops himself even further back once again, and he's kind of got all the work to do again. So He must be getting used to this at this point, you know, trying to work his way through the packs, but he's done a fairly decent job of it within the first few races at least. Up front once again, and it's just myself and Turbo now. I guess the likes of Professor Smiles and Timo just dropping away from the rest of the pack as we get it up across the dirt there, just keeping the car in a straight line. So we're luckily avoiding the accident there, and we're going to tuck back into the slipstream as we go for the run up the hill as Turbo gets it nice and sideways. That is going to open up an opportunity for us to get it down the inside as we both slide out of the top of the hill there, and once again go side by side on the run down to turn 1 again, trying to make the line as awkward as possible as we're around about a third of the way into this final race of the meeting. A little bit further back over P3, we've got the likes of Professor Smiles, Nizam and Timo once again all battling it out for the final podium position. Very close racing by these three. Is it going to be nice and clean? Well, we're going to go on board Nizam and have a look just how close it really is and how clean it really can be. He's going to get the inside line there, and he's going to try and go for it on the run up the hill, but it's looking like Professor's just managed to get that one covered off as he go to the top of the hill. Timo also getting himself involved, trying to kind of, you know, wait and pounce, see if anything happens between these two, and it's looking like Professor's going to have this one covered off on the inside line going into the final corner. Nizam and him side by side, so let's see if he manages to get this one done. Not quite. In fact, Nizam actually loses another position out there and drops to P5 should I say, as Timo gets himself through. Joe's going to make another position up as she sees a bunch of smoke up front, and that's going to be Tommy Hawk having a bit of a moment there. She's going to get that one done on the outside and then cover it off on the run up to the hill. So another fairly decent move by her, although kind of the momentum was actually absolutely took out of Tommy Hawk at that point. But position's a position, whichever way you look at it. Up front, myself and Turbo Boy are going to run into a bit of traffic as it's going to kind of, you know, halt my progress there as we do lose a position to Turbo due to kind of bumping into the back of Dan there as he goes to the pits. Jody once again, in an exact repeat of what happened only a few laps ago, is going to make another move on DWG, this time making her way into P6 for a current best position ever within the league, so a much better race from her. And then we're going to go once again up front to check in with the lead battle with only just over a minute left, and it's going to be myself that gets it up nice and high on the curb, somehow managing to keep the car in a straight line once again, almost a repeat of when we dipped it in the grass earlier on. We're going to then tuck back into the slipstream, and you're going to see just how quickly this is going to allow us to close back up to Turbo Boy for these final few corners. So into the right hander we go. We're going to get a decent run through there and manage to close the gap up. As you can see, Turbo just losing a bit of momentum there in the top of the hill. We're going to tuck straight back into the slipstream and see if we can follow him as closely as possible. As you can see, he's making the line as awkward as he can, and well, it's going to be a bump that's going to end our momentum there and pretty much ruin our chance at a race victory. Not quite sure what happened. I think we just followed him, and then it was just a bit of a awkward angle for the kart to really handle. So there we go. The Turbo Boy is going to win race 3, so that's 2 race wins for him there. Fastest lap once again is going to go to myself and a P2 finish, so fastest lap was a 50.651 this time around. Timo takes P3, so a good podium position for him. P4 is going to go to Professor Smiles, a bit of a quiet race towards the end there, but overall another consistent finishing position for him. P5 once again goes to TCR Nissan, a great round for him, with P6 and her best ever result within NTRL going to Jody after a decent few overtakes and keeping it nice and clean in the final race. DWG gets himself out of last position to finish P7 with Jace P8, P9 to Tommy Hawk, and then finally it's going to be a pit lane finish for Dan, as he pretty much went through the pits about 500 times during that final race. Fastest lap once again to myself at a 50.651, still not as quick as the first race, but much quicker than the fastest lap for the night race there. So another bonus point on the board and a full maximum of fastest laps. Driver of the day is going to go to Jody, a much better result and a much cleaner result than usual, so well done to her for that one. It's probably a result she's been waiting quite a while for. So obviously with those decent and consistent results, that's actually going to bring her much higher up the table than her usual position. She usually hangs around the back of the pack, but that's actually going to bring her on points with one of our most seasoned racers, Jace. Although he did have a bit of a stinker and had plenty of work to do for making his way through the grid, it is very good to see a lot of the racers really kind of close and tight packed. So let's go ahead and have a look at the final points standings after round 1 there at Alsace, and then we have Turbo Boy in front with 74 points. Obviously we're doing 3 races, 2 wins, 3 podiums overall and a pole position, so he's going to take the bonus point for that one as well. Myself on 72, obviously 3 races, 1 win, 3 podiums, and we do have the 3 fastest laps there giving us 3 bonus points. Timo takes P3 on 63 points, it's Professor Smiles 59 points, Tal or TZR Nizam 54 points, Jody taking P6 with 41 points, joint with Jace, a much better result for her. Tony 37 points, DWG 29, and finally Dan on 23 after a bit of a stinker of a round by him, but I'm sure he'll come bouncing back for the next one. So there we have it, that is the results after the first ever Superkarts round. It was absolutely a blast to take part in, and one that I really did enjoy. It was a bit more laid back, obviously taking place on a Friday. It's a little bit more quiet, and we did have a few dropouts at fairly late notice, which was a bit of a shame, but hopefully the grid should get bigger and bigger throughout the season as the more regular drivers manage to make the rounds and kind of get involved in something as daft as, you know, kart racing. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.